In 2019, amidst the rural fields of East Texas, a man named Wade Griffin met Taylor Parker. Griffin worked locally as a roofer and a hog trapper. Parker told him she was the heir to a multi-million-dollar syrup fortune, and the two quickly began a relationship that appeared from the outside to be entirely stable. To secure Griffin's long-term commitment, Parker told him she was pregnant. She backed the claim with intense physical preparations in his home, filling a spare room with a pristine white crib, baby clothes, and all the visible markers of an impending birth. There was one medical reality standing in the way of this domestic future. 4 years earlier, following a series of severe medical complications, Parker had undergone a total hysterectomy. She was biologically incapable of carrying a child. For months, Parker successfully maintained the illusion, but by late September 2020, her fabricated due date arrived, and the timeline she invented began to work against her. The deadline could no longer be pushed back. Parker had engineered a psychological prison. She either had to produce a biological child that she physically could not carry, or face the immediate, total collapse of the life and relationship she had manufactured. This is a digital ultrasound scan on a medical monitor. To her partner, it served as clinical proof of a developing fetus. In reality, Parker acquired these customized images online. She paired the digital media with physical props, wearing a silicone moonbelly prosthetic beneath her clothing to mimic the physical expansion of a late-stage pregnancy. External circumstances provided the perfect cover. The onset of the COVID-19 pandemic in early 2020 triggered strict visitor restrictions at medical facilities. Parker used these protocols to ban Griffin from attending any doctor's appointments, effectively isolating her medical history from any outside scrutiny. The underlying motivation for this elaborate staging points back to Griffin. Parker exhibited a profound fear of abandonment, combined with a persistent need to validate the wealthy, high-status identity she had invented for herself. The fake pregnancy served as a behavioral management tool. She utilized the prospect of a child to anchor Griffin's attention, attempting to guarantee his presence by tying him to a non-existent family. By early October, the buffer of time had vanished. The lie was buckling. Family members were beginning to question the delays, and the psychological pressure on Parker reached a breaking point. Desperate for a few more days, Parker orchestrated chaotic external distractions. When a fabricated C-section appointment approached on October 5th, she called in a fake bomb threat to the local hospital to justify why the procedure had to be canceled. To understand what happened next, forensic psychologists use a framework known as elimination murder, visualized here. In this model, violence is employed strictly as a functional tool to reach a specific goal. The defining characteristic is total psychological disassociation. The perpetrator harbors no personal animosity toward the victim. Applied to Parker's mindset, the pregnant woman she targeted ceased to be a human being. She was reduced to an obstacle holding the biological asset Parker required to save her relationship. The ticking clock of her fabricated due date forced a shift. The behavior escalated from compulsive lying into the premeditative logistics of predatory violence. The digital trail confirms the intent on the morning of October 9, 2020. Parker conducted specific, targeted research. She actively watched videos detailing how to perform a physical examination on an infant delivered prematurely at exactly 35 weeks. Her target was Reagan Simmons Hancock, a 21-year-old woman who was precisely 35 weeks pregnant. Parker had identified and befriended Reagan months earlier, gaining access to her home by working as her wedding photographer. Later that morning, Parker arrived at Reagan's house in New Boston. The ensuing attack was brutal and sustained, resulting in extensive blunt force trauma and sharp force injuries throughout the home, all while Reagan's 3-year-old daughter was present in another room. With Reagan incapacitated, Parker executed the final stage of her plan. Using a scalpel she had brought with her, a tool typically used on livestock, she performed a crude surgical extraction to remove the unborn child, Braxlin Sage. The evidence rules out a sudden crime of passion. Parker arrived with the necessary tools, having researched the exact gestational age of the fetus, and carried out a clinical extraction designed to harvest an infant to solve her domestic crisis. Parker fled the scene with the infant, but her escape lasted less than an hour. Driving erratically near DeKalb, Texas, she was pulled over by a Texas Highway Patrol officer. Covered in blood, Parker deployed her final lie. She told the trooper that she had suddenly given birth on the side of the road and that the newborn in her lap was struggling to breathe. Both were rushed to a hospital in Idabel, Oklahoma. In the sterile light of the emergency room, the deception instantly failed. A brief medical examination quickly confirmed that Parker lacked a uterus and showed zero physical signs of recent childbirth. DNA testing swiftly verified that the child belonged to Reagan. Despite the efforts of paramedics and hospital staff, baby Braxlin was pronounced dead shortly after arrival. Parker had spent 10 months constructing a flawless alternate reality for her friends and partner. When subjected to the objective scrutiny of medical professionals and law enforcement, the entire fabrication disintegrated in minutes. During her 2022 trial, the defense team argued against the death penalty by pointing to a neurological impairment. They claimed Parker suffered from frontal lobe syndrome, causing severe executive dysfunction and poor risk assessment. The prosecution countered with the meticulous timeline of the crime. They highlighted her complex digital planning, her ongoing manipulations while in county jail, and the clear cognitive organization required to stage the fraud. The jury returned a guilty verdict for capital murder and kidnapping in under an hour. On November 9, 2022, Parker was sentenced to death. Her conviction marked the end of a decade-long gap in female death penalty cases in Texas, making her the youngest of only 7 women currently awaiting execution in the state. After years of mandatory appeals, her legal avenues exhausted. In May 2026, the United States Supreme Court declined to review the case, cementing her death sentence and bringing the judicial process to a close. The Taylor Parker case demonstrates the fatal limit of a constructed reality, when deep pathological delusion is trapped against the immovable ticking clock of biology. The resulting collision destroys everyone in its path.